Rosicrucianism is one of the most influential esoteric traditions in Western spiritual thought, and yet one that so many people have never actually heard of. Blending mysticism, alchemy, Hermetic philosophy, Kabbalah, and Christian esotericism, it presents a path of inner transformation and hidden wisdom. Unlike mainstream religious movements, Rosicrucianism has thrived on secrecy, symbolism, and allegory, offering its teachings only to those deemed ready to receive them. The tradition has inspired mystics, philosophers, and seekers for centuries, influencing a wide range of esoteric and spiritual movements. The origins of Rosicrucianism can be traced to the early 17th century when three mysterious manifestos, there was Fama Fraternitatis, written in 1614, Confessio Fraternitatis, 1615, and the Chemical Wedding of Christian Rosenkreuz in 1616. These were all published in Germany. These texts claim to reveal the existence of a hidden brotherhood of enlightened individuals dedicated to the pursuit of secret wisdom and the betterment of humanity. The manifestos sparked widespread interest and debate, inspiring both admirers and skeptics. Some believe they were evidence of a real secret society operating in the shadows, while others saw them as allegorical or satirical works meant to challenge religious and philosophical thought. Regardless of their origins, these writings laid the foundation for a mystical tradition that would influence alchemy, Freemasonry, Theosophy, the Golden Dawn, and various modern esoteric movements. Despite the uncertainty surrounding its historical roots, Rosicrucianism has had a profound and lasting impact on Western esotericism. Its teachings emphasize spiritual enlightenment, personal transformation, and the search for hidden truths, drawing from multiple mystical traditions. The symbol of the rose cross, central to Rosicrucian thought, represents the union of the material and spiritual worlds, the sacrifice required for enlightenment, and the blossoming of divine wisdom from the human soul. Rosicrucianism remains relevant today, continuing to inspire spiritual seekers, esoteric scholars, and initiatory societies. Various modern groups claim to carry on its teachings, adapting them to contemporary spiritual needs while preserving the essence of its mystical path. As an esoteric tradition, Rosicrucianism bridges science, mysticism, and philosophy, offering an enduring legacy that challenges individuals to seek truth beyond the ordinary and to engage in the lifelong pursuit of inner wisdom. Today's video explores the origins, philosophy, and enduring influence of Rosicrucianism, examining how it was or has shaped Western esoteric thought through its enigmatic beginnings, symbolic teachings, and ongoing legacy. By tracing its development and impact, we can better understand why Rosicrucianism continues to captivate the minds of seekers across the centuries. But before we get into that, the bit where I say thanks for everybody who has signed up to a tier on my Patreon. It definitely helps to keep the content flowing and the lights on, and I really do appreciate it. And now, let's do that fancy intro thing. So the origins of Rosicrucianism can be traced to the publication of the three manifestos that I mentioned earlier, and these were created in the early 17th century. There's Fama Fraternitatis in 1614, Confessio Fraternitatis 1615, and the Chemical Wedding of Christian Rosenkreuz in 1616. These texts introduced the idea of a sacred mystical brotherhood, the fraternity of the Rosy Cross, dedicated to hidden wisdom, spiritual enlightenment, and the reformation of society. Written in an allegorical and symbolic style, the manifestos inspired fascination and speculation among scholars, theologians, and alchemists. Whether the Rosicrucian order actually existed at the time remains a mystery, but the ideas contained in these writings profoundly shaped the development of Western esotericism. The first manifesto, Fama Fraternitatis, or the Fame of the Brotherhood of the Most Laudable Order of the Rosy Cross, tells the story of Christian Rosenkreutz, the mystical founder of the Rosicrucian fraternity. According to the text, Rosenkreutz was a German nobleman who, after traveling to the Middle East and learning the secrets of ancient wisdom from sages in Damascus, Jerusalem, and Egypt, returned to Europe to form a secret order dedicated to healing, alchemy, and spiritual transformation. The fraternity was said to work invisibly, revealing its teachings only to those deemed worthy. The Fama also describes the discovery of Rosenkreutz's tomb, allegedly found 120 years after his death, perfectly preserved and surrounded by esoteric symbols, a discovery interpreted as a sign that the Rosicrucians would soon reveal themselves to the world. The second manifesto, Confessio Fraternitatis, expands on the Fama, declaring the fraternity's mission to reform knowledge, science, and spirituality. It criticizes the corruption of religious institutions and dogmatic philosophy, advocating instead for a synthesis of science, mysticism, and divine wisdom. The Confessio presents Rosicrucianism as a movement aimed at spiritual enlightenment rather than personal gain or power. The third and most mysterious text, the Chemical Wedding of Christian Rosenkreutz, differs from the first two in that it is written as an allegorical initiation story rather than a philosophical declaration. It describes a surreal and symbolic journey undertaken by Rosenkreutz, filled with alchemy, mystical transformation, and hidden knowledge. The text is rich in alchemical symbolism, describing a mystical wedding where spiritual opposites, often interpreted as the union of the soul and spirit, or the alchemical marriage of sulfur and mercury, are brought together. Scholars have debated its meaning for centuries, with interpretations ranging from an alchemical allegory to a deeply coded initiation ritual. Central to Rosicrucianism is the legend of Christian Rosenkreutz, often abbreviated as CRC, the mythical founder of the fraternity. According to the Fama Fraternitatis, Rosenkreutz was born in the late 14th century and embarked on a journey through the Middle East and North Africa, where he was initiated into the secrets of Hermeticism, alchemy, and Kabbalah. Upon returning to Europe, he sought to share his knowledge, but found society unready to accept it. Instead, he formed a secret order of adepts who would work in secrecy, preserving and passing down this wisdom to future generations. The story of Rosenkreutz is highly symbolic, and many scholars believe he was never a historical figure, but rather an allegorical representation of the enlightened initiate, or the archetypal seeker of hidden wisdom. His journey mirrors that of Hermes Trismegistus, the alchemist of the Middle Ages and mystical figure in Christian esotericism, all of whom sought divine truth through hidden knowledge. The legend also reinforced the idea of an invisible college, a secret brotherhood working behind the scenes to guide humanity. Whether real or mythical, this concept profoundly influenced later secret societies, including Freemasonry, the Golden Dawn, and various Rosicrucian groups that emerged in later centuries. The publication of the Rosicrucian manifestos occurred during a time of intellectual, religious, and scientific upheaval in Europe. The Protestant Reformation from 1517 through to 1648 had fractured the Catholic Church's authority, leading to intense religious conflicts and a search for alternative spiritual paths. At the same time, the scientific revolution was beginning to challenge medieval worldviews, promoting a rational approach to knowledge while still being intertwined with alchemy, astrology, and mystical philosophy. The Rosicrucian text arrived in this climate as a mystical and intellectual provocation, suggesting that a secret brotherhood possessed advanced spiritual and scientific knowledge. Many scholars, alchemists, and mystics eagerly sought to join the fraternity, writing letters and treatises in response to the manifestos. Others, however, dismissed the Rosicrucian movement as a hoax, satire, or religious critique. The secrecy of the order, whether real or imagined, only deepened the intrigue. One of the most significant effects of the Rosicrucian manifestos was their influence on later esoteric traditions. The idea of a hidden brotherhood preserving divine wisdom became a template for secret societies, influencing the development of Freemasonry, Theosophy, and modern Rosicrucian groups. The manifestos also revived interest in alchemy and Hermetic philosophy, inspiring thinkers who sought to unite mysticism, science, and spiritual transformation. The Renaissance from 14th to 17th century had sparked a revival of Hermeticism, Neoplatonism, and Kabbalah, which greatly influenced the Rosicrucian movement. Thinkers such as Marsilio Ficino and Giovanni Pico del Mirandola had already been exploring the idea that hidden wisdom from antiquity could be rediscovered and synthesized with Christian theology. The Rosicrucian text built upon this, presenting the order's knowledge as a continuation of ancient traditions, reaching back to Egypt, Greece, and the Middle East. Alchemy, which had been practiced in Europe for centuries, was also deeply intertwined with Rosicrucian thought. Alchemists sought not only to transmute base metals into gold, but also to purify the soul and attain spiritual enlightenment. The chemical wedding, in particular, is filled with alchemical imagery, reinforcing the idea that alchemy was as much about inner transformation as it was about physical processes. The Protestant Reformation played a crucial role in shaping the reception of Rosicrucian ideas. The manifestos appeared during a time when Europe was divided between Catholicism and emerging Protestant sects, many of which were exploring mystical and alternative spiritual interpretations. Some Protestants saw the Rosicrucian texts as aligned with their desire for a reformation of knowledge and spirituality, while others viewed them as suspicious. The idea of a secret fraternity working behind the scenes to restore divine wisdom was particularly appealing in an era when traditional religious structures were being questioned. At the heart of Rosicrucianism lies a profound philosophy of spiritual enlightenment, self-transformation, and the pursuit of hidden wisdom. Unlike conventional religious doctrines, which often emphasize external authority and dogma, Rosicrucian teachings focus on inner revelation, personal alchemy, and the refinement of the soul. Rosicrucianism proposes that the true path to enlightenment is a process of inner transmutation, which, like the alchemical quests to transform base metals into gold, through self-discipline, contemplation, and the study of mystical teachings, initiates seek to uncover universal truths hidden beneath the surface of ordinary existence. The spiritual philosophy of Rosicrucianism is built around the concept of personal transformation and divine wisdom. Unlike mainstream religious traditions that promise salvation through faith alone, Rosicrucianism teaches that each individual must actively seek enlightenment through a disciplined process of self-transmutation. This mirrors the great work of alchemy, where the philosopher's stone is both a physical and spiritual symbol of inner perfection. This path requires the initiate to go through three primary stages of transformation. Firstly, purification, otherwise known as nigredo or blackening, where the individual must confront their own ignorance, attachments, and false beliefs. This stage is often described as the dark night of the soul, a necessary process of breaking down the ego. Two is illumination, also known as albedo or whitening. The seeker gains spiritual insight, wisdom, and a deeper understanding of the divine mysteries. This is often associated with the study of esoteric knowledge such as Hermetic philosophy, Kabbalah, and sacred geometry. And third, the perfection, or the rubedo, or reddening, where the final stage represents the awakening of higher consciousness, in which the seeker attains harmony with divine forces and becomes a vessel of wisdom and enlightenment. This process aligns with mystical traditions found in both the East and the West, drawing parallels with Sufi mysticism, Gnostic initiation, and the meditative paths of Eastern philosophy. Rosicrucianism, like other esoteric traditions, relies heavily on symbolism and allegory to convey its deepest teachings. This method serves multiple purposes. It ensures that only those truly dedicated to the path will decipher its wisdom. It also protects sacred knowledge from corruption or misuse, and it mirrors the mystical principle that truth must be actively sought rather than passively received. One of the most important symbols in Rosicrucian thought is the Rosy Cross, which represents the union of spiritual wisdom, being the rose, with the suffering and trials of human existence, being the cross. This symbol echoes Christian mysticism, alchemical transformation, and the Hermetic concept of the reconciliation of opposites. Other key symbols would include the vault of Christian Rosenkreuz, which is representing the hidden temple of wisdom and the buried secrets of the mystical past, waiting to be uncovered by the worthy. There's also the Philosopher's Stone, which is a symbol of both material and spiritual perfection, aligning with the concept of inner alchemy. And also the sacred geometry and the Kabbalistic tree of life, which represents the structure of reality and the journey of the soul toward divine union. Beyond symbols, secrecy plays a crucial role in Rosicrucian doctrine. The tradition teaches that true wisdom cannot simply be given, it must be earned through initiation, discipline, and inner transformation. This is why the Rosicrucian fraternity was said to operate in secrecy, revealing itself only to those ready to receive its teachings. This idea of hidden wisdom preserved by an enlightened few has profoundly influenced later secret societies, including Freemasonry and the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Rosicrucian philosophy draws deeply from three primary esoteric traditions: Hermeticism, Kabbalah, and alchemy. These schools of thought provided the foundation for the Rosicrucian worldview, blending mysticism, science, and divine revelation into a unified system of spiritual understanding. Within the Hermetic teachings, based on the writings attributed to Hermes Trismegistus or Trismegistus, form a cornerstone of Rosicrucian philosophy. The Hermetic dictum, as above, so below, reflects the belief that the macrocosm, or the universe, and the microcosm, the human soul, are intimately connected. The Emerald Tablet, a key Hermetic text, describes the process of spiritual alchemy, emphasizing the transformation of the soul into a divine state. Kabbalistic teachings, particularly the Tree of Life, greatly influenced Rosicrucian thought. The 10 Sephirot of the Tree of Life represent different aspects of divine manifestation, providing a map for spiritual ascension. Rosicrucians adapted Kabbalistic numerology, sacred language, and mystical meditation into their teachings, believing that divine wisdom was encoded in the structure of reality itself. Alchemy was both a scientific and mystical tradition. The Rosicrucians saw it as a metaphor for the transformation of the soul. While medieval alchemists sought to turn base metals into gold, Rosicrucians viewed this process as an inner journey of purification, enlightenment, and spiritual rebirth. Alchemical symbols such as the phoenix, representing resurrection, the Ouroboros, or eternal cycle, and the red king and white queen, which is the union of opposites, became central to Rosicrucian teachings. One of the most enduring ideas in Rosicrucianism is that of an invisible fraternity, a hidden brotherhood of enlightened individuals who work behind the scenes to guide human civilization toward wisdom, harmony, and enlightenment. This concept was first introduced in Forma Fraternitatis, which described how the Rosicrucian order operated in secret, choosing to remain unknown while subtly influencing the course of human history. This idea of a spiritual elite preserving sacred knowledge and guiding humanity has deep echoes in both Western and Eastern traditions. It is similar to, for instance, the Platonic philosopher kings, which who were enlightened rulers who govern with wisdom. Also, the Gnostic aeons, which were spiritual beings assisting in divine evolution, and the Sufi saints and hidden masters, which were spiritual teachers guiding humanity from behind the veil. Rosicrucianism teaches that these invisible adepts do not rule openly but work in the background, ensuring that divine wisdom is never lost, reintroducing it to the world at key moments. Some interpretations even link the invisible fraternity to the Great White Brotherhood, a concept later adopted by Theosophy and New Age mysticism. Rosicrucianism has played a pivotal role in shaping Western esoteric traditions, influencing a vast array of mystical, philosophical, and initiatory movements from the 17th century to the present. Its blend of Hermeticism, alchemy, Kabbalah, and Christian mysticism laid the foundation for later occult societies, secret brotherhoods, and esoteric schools of thought. Throughout history, Rosicrucian ideals have been absorbed and reinterpreted by Freemasonry, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, Theosophy, and other mystical traditions, ensuring its continued relevance in Western spiritual discourse. Beyond the world of secret societies, Rosicrucianism also contributed to Enlightenment philosophy, scientific inquiry, and the expansion of Western mysticism. Many of the leading intellectuals of the Renaissance and early modern period were influenced by Rosicrucian themes, viewing the movement as a call for spiritual and intellectual renewal. Figures such as Francis Bacon, Robert Flood, and Elias Ashmole integrated Rosicrucian thought into their work, helping to bridge the gap between mysticism, science, and philosophy. While the original Rosicrucian manifestos claimed that the Brotherhood operated in secrecy and had no intention of revealing itself to the public, the idea of a hidden order dedicated to esoteric wisdom proved too compelling to remain purely theoretical. Over the centuries, various initiatory groups emerged, claiming to carry on the legacy of the Rosicrucians or drawing inspiration from their teachings. One of the most significant esoteric traditions influenced by Rosicrucianism is Freemasonry, particularly its higher degrees. While speculative Freemasonry formally emerged in the early 18th century, it quickly incorporated alchemical, Kabbalistic, and Rosicrucian themes into its rituals and symbols. The Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, which developed a more explicitly mystical framework, introduced the 18th degree Knight of the Rose Croix. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. It's actually French Rose Croix, or something like that. A direct reference to Rosicrucian symbolism. This degree emphasizes spiritual enlightenment, divine wisdom, and the transformation of the initiate, mirroring Rosicrucian teachings on inner alchemy and personal transmutation. In addition, several Rosicrucian Masonic orders were founded in the 18th and 19th centuries, including the Societas Rosicruciana in Anglia, or the SRIA, a Masonic society that required members to be master masons before they could explore its esoteric teachings. The Gold and Rosicross, a German Rosicrucian society, also merged Rosicrucian philosophy with Masonic initiation structures, focusing on alchemy, sacred geometry, and mystical Christian themes. In the late 19th century, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn emerged as one of the most influential esoteric societies, drawing heavily from Rosicrucian philosophy, ceremonial magic, and Hermeticism. Founded by William Wynne Westcott, Samuel Liddell MacGregor Mathers, and William Robert Woodman, the Golden Dawn built upon the initiatory themes of Rosicrucianism, incorporating its symbols, rituals, and teachings into a structured system of spiritual development and magical practice. The Golden Dawn's initiation structure mirrored the alchemical transmutation of the self, echoing the Rosicrucian view that enlightenment could be attained through self-purification, mystical insight, and divine communion. The group also embraced Kabbalah, astrology, tarot symbolism, and Enochian magic, creating one of the most comprehensive Western esoteric systems. Many influential occultists, including Aleister Crowley, A. Waite, and Dion Fortune, emerged from the Golden Dawn and carried its Rosicrucian influences into later mystical traditions. The Theosophical Society, founded by Helena Petrovna Blavatsky in 1875, also absorbed Rosicrucian themes, particularly the idea of a hidden brotherhood of enlightened masters guiding humanity's spiritual evolution. Blavatsky's concept of the Mahatmas, advanced beings who preserved esoteric knowledge and influenced world events, closely resembled the Rosicrucian notion of an invisible fraternity. Like the Rosicrucians, Theosophy sought to merge science, mysticism, and philosophy into a unified system of knowledge, promoting the idea that ancient wisdom traditions contained hidden truths that could be rediscovered through spiritual awakening. Theosophists also integrated alchemy, Eastern spirituality, and occult philosophy, further expanding upon the universalist themes introduced by Rosicrucianism. Though primarily viewed as a mystical tradition, Rosicrucianism also played a role in the intellectual and philosophical movements of the Enlightenment. The Rosicrucian manifestos had called for a reformation of knowledge, encouraging the study of science, nature, and divine mysteries as interconnected aspects of reality. This perspective influenced many Enlightenment thinkers who saw Rosicrucian ideals as a model for balancing scientific inquiry with spiritual insight. Rosicrucianism helped lay the groundwork for rational mysticism, an approach that sought to integrate reason with spiritual experience rather than rejecting one in favor of the other. This concept resonated with Enlightenment philosophers, alchemists, and early scientists, many of whom viewed the study of nature as a path to understanding the divine. Several influential figures in Western esotericism have been associated with Rosicrucianism, either as active participants in its traditions or as thinkers who incorporated its principles into their work. Firstly, the English philosopher and scientist Francis Bacon is often linked to Rosicrucianism, though there is no definitive proof of his direct involvement. His book, The New Atlantis, published in 1626, describes a mystical utopian society ruled by a secretive group of enlightened scholars dedicated to science and spiritual wisdom. Many have interpreted this as an allegorical reference to the Rosicrucian Brotherhood, suggesting that Bacon may have been inspired by their ideals. The English physician, alchemist, and mystic Robert Fludd was one of the most vocal defenders of Rosicrucianism in the early 17th century. His works explored alchemy, sacred geometry, Kabbalah, and Hermeticism, seeking to unify scientific and mystical knowledge. Flood's elaborate cosmological diagrams and philosophical writings aligned closely with Rosicrucian themes of divine order and the transformation of the self. The antiquarian, Freemason, and scholar Elias Ashmole was fascinated by Rosicrucianism, alchemy, and Hermetic philosophy. He is best known for compiling and preserving numerous esoteric texts, ensuring that Rosicrucian, alchemical, and Masonic traditions were passed down to later generations. Ashmole's Masonic affiliations further contributed to the integration of Rosicrucian symbolism into Freemasonry. While Rosicrucianism originated in the early 17th century, its ideals of hidden wisdom, personal transformation, and spiritual enlightenment have endured and evolved over time. After periods of decline and resurgence, Rosicrucianism experienced a major revival in the 19th and 20th centuries as new organizations emerged claiming to continue its mystical traditions. These groups adopted Rosicrucian teachings to modern spiritual needs while preserving many of the alchemical, Kabbalistic, and Hermetic principles found in the original manifestos. Today, Rosicrucianism is no longer confined to secretive brotherhoods, but is actively explored by public organizations, esoteric schools, and digital communities. Groups such as the ancient mystical order Rosicrucis or AMORC, A-M-O-R-C, the Rosicrucian Fellowship, and the Societas Rosicruciana in Anglia, or the SRIA, have shaped the contemporary understanding of Rosicrucianism, influencing New Age spirituality, Western esotericism, and modern occult philosophy. By the late 18th century, Rosicrucianism had faded from prominence, overshadowed by the rise of Freemasonry and the Enlightenment's emphasis on reason and science. However, the 19th century saw a resurgence of interest in Western esotericism, fueled by the revival of alchemy, theosophy, spiritualism, and ceremonial magic. During this period, Rosicrucian themes were reintroduced through secret societies and mystical orders, many of which claimed direct lineage from the original Rosicrucian brotherhood. This revival was deeply influenced by Romanticism and occultism, as many thinkers sought to reclaim spiritual traditions that had been suppressed or forgotten. Writers such as Hargrave Jennings and Pascal Beverly Randolph published books on Rosicrucian philosophy, blending it with sexual mysticism, Eastern teachings, and personal alchemical transformation. At the same time, Masonic orders incorporated Rosicrucian degrees, reinforcing its connection to initiatory secret societies. By the 20th century, Rosicrucianism had expanded beyond traditional European lodges to become a global spiritual movement, with major organizations forming in the United States, England, and continental Europe. These groups sought to modernize Rosicrucian teachings, making them more accessible to the public while preserving their mystical and initiatory traditions. One of the most widely known Rosicrucian organizations today is the ancient mystical order Rosicrucis, or AMORC. Founded in 1915 by Harvey Spencer Lewis, AMORC sought to popularize Rosicrucian teachings through structured lessons, self-study courses, and initiatory practices. Unlike older secretive Rosicrucian orders, AMORC adopted a more open and educational approach, making its teachings available to anyone willing to explore them. AMORC's teachings focus on spiritual self-development, inner alchemy, and esoteric philosophy, covering topics such as meditation, sacred geometry, ancient Egyptian mysticism, and cosmic consciousness. Unlike many earlier Rosicrucian groups, AMORC places a strong emphasis on the mystical traditions of ancient Egypt, claiming that Rosicrucian knowledge originated in Egyptian mystery schools before being passed down through Pythagoras, Hermetic philosophers, and medieval alchemists. AMORC operates an international network of lodges and study groups, with its headquarters at the Rosicrucian Park in San Jose in California. This site includes an Egyptian-style temple, a research library, and a museum dedicated to esoteric history, reinforcing AMORC's vision of a modern Rosicrucian tradition that blends ancient wisdom with contemporary spiritual practice. Founded in 1909 by Max Heindel, the Rosicrucian Fellowship presents Rosicrucianism through a distinctly Christian esoteric lens, blending mystical Christianity, astrology, and spiritual healing. Heindel claimed to have received teachings from an inner Rosicrucian order, which he later systematized into a comprehensive philosophy known as the Western Wisdom Teachings. Heindel's seminal work, The Rosicrucian Cosmoconception, outlines a vision of human spiritual evolution, describing the soul's journey through reincarnation, planetary influences, and cosmic cycles. Unlike Amorc, which embraces a broad mystical approach, the Rosicrucian Fellowship strongly emphasizes Christian mysticism, ethical living, and vegetarianism, viewing these as essential to spiritual enlightenment. The fellowship's headquarters, Mount Ecclesia in Oceanside, California, serves as a retreat for esoteric study, healing work, and meditation, reflecting the organization's commitment to practical spirituality and inner transformation. Unlike Amorc and the Rosicrucian Fellowship, which are open to the public, the Societas Rosicruciana in Anglia, or the SRIA, and its international branches, such as the Societas Rosicruciana in Civitatibus Foederatus, or the SRICF, try and say that 10 times in a row quickly, are exclusive Masonic Rosicrucian societies. Founded in 1865 in England by Robert Wentworth Little, the SRIA requires members to be Master Masons before they can explore Rosicrucian teachings. SRIA follows a structured initiatory system mirroring Masonic degrees and focuses on alchemy, Kabbalah, Hermeticism, and philosophical Rosicrucianism. Unlike Amorc's self-study format, SRIA operates through lodge-based rituals, maintaining the traditional secrecy and symbolism associated with classical Rosicrucianism. SRIA's influence can be seen in later esoteric organizations, particularly the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, whose founders were deeply involved in Masonic and Rosicrucian traditions. In the 21st century, Rosicrucianism has continued to evolve, integrating with New Age spirituality, philosophical transformation, and digital esotericism. While traditional groups like Amorc and SRIA maintain their ritualistic and philosophical roots, newer interpretations of Rosicrucianism emphasize practical spirituality, meditation, and self-initiation. The rise of the internet and digital learning platforms has transformed how Rosicrucian knowledge is accessed. Online courses, virtual initiations, and digital libraries have made esoteric texts, sacred symbols, and philosophical teachings widely available. While this has helped preserve and spread Rosicrucian wisdom, it has also raised the question about authenticity, secrecy, and the depth of initiation in an online format. Additionally, modern Rosicrucian thinkers have explored the relationship between esotericism and science, particularly in areas such as quantum consciousness, sacred geometry, and neuroscience. Some Rosicrucian groups advocate for a synthesis of mystical and scientific perspectives, continuing the tradition's long-standing commitment to uniting reason and spirituality. Rosicrucianism has remained one of the most influential esoteric traditions in Western spiritual history. Emerging in the early 17th century through the publication of the Rosicrucian Manifestos, it introduced the concept of a hidden fraternity devoted to spiritual enlightenment, inner transformation, and the pursuit of divine wisdom. Though its historical origins remain a mystery, Rosicrucianism's philosophical depth, symbolic teachings, and alchemical vision of self-transmutation have left an enduring mark on mystical traditions, secret societies, and modern spiritual movements. Over the centuries, Rosicrucian thought has shaped the development of Western esotericism, influencing Freemasonry, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, Theosophy, and various modern mystical groups. Its emphasis on alchemy, Kabbalah, and Hermetic wisdom has provided seekers with a structured path of spiritual refinement and enlightenment. Figures such as Francis Bacon, Robert Flood, Elias Ashmole, and later esoteric scholars embraced Rosicrucian ideas, seeing them as a means to unite science, mysticism, and philosophy. Through the efforts of 19th and 20th century revivalists, Rosicrucianism evolved into an accessible and diverse spiritual tradition with organizations such as AMORC, the Rosicrucian Fellowship, and SRIA, ensuring its continued survival. Despite its historical roots, Rosicrucianism remains highly relevant in today's mystical and spiritual traditions. Its core principles, the search for hidden wisdom, the integration of spiritual and scientific understanding, and the pursuit of enlightenment through self-transformation, continue to resonate with contemporary seekers. In an era where traditional religious institutions have declined in influence, esoteric teachings that emphasize personal experience and direct communion with higher knowledge have gained renewed interest. Rosicrucianism's flexibility has allowed it to adapt to modern spiritual currents, integrating with philosophical transformation, quantum mysticism, and digital esotericism. The rise of online Rosicrucian communities, virtual study groups, has expanded its accessibility, making it easier for individuals to explore its teachings. However, this openness has also raised questions about authenticity, initiation, and the depth of spiritual experience in the digital age. The challenge for modern Rosicrucian groups lies in preserving the essence of their teachings while embracing new methods of transmission and practice. Rosicrucianism has always been a tradition that bridges the past and the future, drawing from ancient spiritual wisdom while continuously evolving to meet the needs of contemporary seekers. It stands as a testament to the timeless human desire for knowledge, transformation, and enlightenment. Unlike rigid religious structures, Rosicrucianism thrives on symbolism, secrecy, and personal discovery, ensuring that its wisdom is earned rather than simply handed down. As the world continues to advance in science, philosophy, and spirituality, Rosicrucian teachings offer a unique perspective, one that seeks to harmonize the material and the mystical, the rational and the transcendent. Whether through traditional lodge-based initiations, self-study groups, or digital exploration, Rosicrucianism remains a living tradition, guiding those who seek higher understanding and inner transformation. In the end, Rosicrucianism is not merely an ancient secret society or a historical curiosity. It is an evolving mystical path that continues to inspire generations of seekers, philosophers, and esoteric scholars. As long as there are those who search for hidden truths, seek self-mastery, and aspire to unlock the mysteries of existence, the legacy of the Rosicrucian tradition will endure, illuminating the way for future spiritual explorers. And that brings us to the end of today's Path series, or this month's Path series. I haven't included a book section to this particular one. The three manifestos that have been mentioned you can find online. They are in public domain, so you can just, the best place to actually go, and one of the best places, one of my favorite places, is to go to Internet Archive. It's archive.org, and have a look there. There are lots and lots and lots of esoteric and occult books there that you can read for free. But other than that, I am going to provide links to a few websites that you can go and have a look at, including AMORC, or mostly AMORC, and a couple others that you might be interested in having a look at, just to further your understanding of Rosicrucianism. All right, and that's it for today and this month, and I'll see you next week. Cheers for now. Bye-bye.